Barnhart, Senior Director, Product and Industry Market Strategy at Infor, and one of the winners of this year's Women in Supply Chain Award presented by Supply and Demand Chain Executive. Christine, thank you so much for joining us today and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited.
I'm super excited for you. So Christine, let's start out with, tell me a little bit about yourself, your company, and kind of how you got to this point in time.
Sure. Well, I'm a Southern Indiana girl, a Hoosier at heart. Really grew up in heavy industrial manufacturing, went to engineering school, and loved it, actually. I mean, I loved solving problems and processes, but then really discovered supply chain in the second half of my career, if you will, and really determined that I had found my passion, which was really kind of bringing, I think, the technical and the sales and the business leaders together to run these complex supply chains. Was really fortunate. Started with Infor about 3 years ago with a focus on industry and bringing all that background that I had in manufacturing and supply chain. And then recently, about 8 months ago, started as the Senior Director for Product and Industry Strategy. And I just love it. Infor has been a great home for the last 3 years. I've learned so much. I think it's the big company that people don't always think about first. We're really known as a industry focused cloud ERP company, but we have best in class, best in breed people solutions and supply chain solutions. And so my mission is really to spread that word and evangelize the things that we can do to really help customers.
So what attributes do you think a successful supply chain leader should have?
So that's an interesting question because I think there's many attributes, but I think at the core, the people that I meet that are very passionate about supply chain and have done really great work, they're always growing. They have this thirst for knowledge and they don't ever want to really sit still. And I heard a quote last week that said, if you weren't growing, you were shrinking. And I really took that to heart because I think that that's true.
So we all have faced some challenges in the supply chain industry, some more than others in other ways, but at the end of the day, they're still the same kind of challenges. Kind of explain kind of some of the challenges that you have faced in your role and how did you work with Infor to kind of overcome them?
I mean, honestly, Infor has been kind of the dream. I came into an organization that already had a lot of women in leadership. We were pretty well represented, multiple backgrounds. I think when you get into at least for me, my experience in the technology space is very dynamic and people are really coming at it from all different angles. That is not to say in my previous history working in manufacturing, both as an engineer and as a supply chain professional, that I didn't have to overcome challenges. And, some of them were just, people had a perception of what they thought my style should be because I was a woman, that I had to, either maybe tweak, how I worked or maybe educate them about, kind of what my strengths and my attributes were. But, I don't think there's any like one way to be successful in supply chain. I think you just have to keep kind of moving forward every single day and not ever take no for an answer, right? I mean, I will tell you, the biggest growth throughout my career has always been when somebody told me that I wasn't capable to do something, like, oh, you're not right for that. You don't have those skills. And I would be like, let me show you how you're wrong. So, I think, you just have to kind of let it roll off your back and try to maintain a positive outlook.
So the supply chain industry itself has always traditionally been a male-dominated industry, and that seems to be evolving and changing, which is good. So, from where you sit, how do you feel about that evolution and kind of how can we work with universities and colleges to kind of get, recruit and retain more talented females in the supply chain?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bit of a unique perspective there because I'm an electrical engineer by education, and that landscape is perhaps even more dismal in terms of gender equity. So for me, coming into supply chain, I wasn't the only one. There were like 2 or 3 of us, and I was super happy about that. But I think, we're seeing some really positive trends. Women actually outnumber men now for both 2 and 4 year degrees. We're seeing really great interest in supply chain. I think, especially in the wake of the pandemic, people didn't, I mean, I've been in this for a long time, and my family really didn't know what supply chain was. Now they know. They're like, oh, supply chains don't work. I don't have toilet paper. So I think that that's been, really positive. I think the other thing that the pandemic has really helped is that it has shown us that we don't have to go into an office every day. We don't have to go into the manufacturing site every day. And I think in terms of retention of women, I think that'll be really important. I know for myself, I have a 21 and a 23-year-old. It was really a struggle, always having daycare when the kids were sick or, whatnot. And I think now we understand that people can still be productive in a non-traditional way.
So what advice do you have for those starting out in the supply chain industry?
So, most people I think would tell you, make sure you have mentors. And I'm going to say, I don't want you to get mentors. I want you to build a tribe. And the difference there is, I think when we say mentors, people think about these kind of structured programs and you're assigned somebody. But I really think that in order to be successful, I don't think that's just supply chain. I think it's just being a professional in general. You need people around you that can kind of hold a mirror up to you when you're doing well, and can hold a mirror up to you when maybe you need to stretch or grow or change. And they don't all have to be in supply chain. Many of the people that, I value their opinion, I call them, I get advice, they're not in supply chain. They're in other, business professional realms. And I think having that mix is really healthy.
So to wrap it up, how does it feel to be named one of Supply and Demand Chain Executive's top women in supply chain?
It feels wonderful. I feel incredibly privileged. And when I look at the other women that have, or won this award, I'm like, gosh, not sure I stand shoulder to shoulder, because there's just some incredible talent. And, I think for me, it's just, it's great to do what you love, but then to be recognized by your peers for, doing a good job. I mean, does it get any better than that?
Well, I personally think that you definitely deserve a spot on the list. So congratulations with that. And thank you to you and your company and everything that you do to keep the supply chain moving. I know it's been kind of challenging times. So
in a wild ride.
Yeah, I would definitely imagine so. So Christine Barnhart, Senior Director of Product and Industry Market Strategy at Infor, and one of the recipients of Supply and Demand Chain Executives Women in Supply Chain Award. To learn more about Christine, go to stcexec.com. Congratulations again.
Thank you.